Chinese Snake in the Grass, 1938. The old dilemma of whether to believe a hunter and his explanation of a hunting utopia has been around since the advent of hunting. My grandfather was returning from a pheasant hunting trip in northern China when he noticed a man get on a train with a brace of pheasants. This wasn't unusual, but where they were, so close to home, they questioned the guy, they asked him who he was, exchanged pleasantries, swapped hunting stories, and really asked him about where this pheasant hunting mecca was. He explained, just over the hill. They returned home with this information. They could hardly sleep. They packed their bags, packed 3 days worth of food, and returned to the supposed mecca of pheasant hunting. The first indication that things weren't exactly as they seemed was a desolate landscape out in front of them, covered in snow, devoid of vegetation. Remember, this is the 1930s in rural China. They went up to a cart owner and asked him about this destination. And he said, sure, be happy to take you, but there are no Etsy. They went to this destination, asked some of the villagers about where the pheasants were. Where are these Etsy? All the villagers shook their heads and said, there are no Etsy here. Maybe on the lake, maybe a little bit over the ridge towards the lake. Maybe that's where you'll find the Etsy. So off they went, the cart owner taking them there. They arrived at the lake, not even a reed in sight. All the reeds had been captured for fuel, for it was a desolate and hard winter, that winter of 1938. The cart owner had to say goodbye, had to go back to the train station. He said, there's a village over the rise that you guys can find some accommodations and potentially some transport back to the train station. Foreigners in China at the time were allowed to go into anybody's household. It's sort of customary for you to invite yourself in. So they invited themselves in to the richest house they could find. They explained to the mother and the grandmother and the kids of the household who they were. They put all the food and the rations for 3 days on the table and gladly shared their rations and the vodka and the cognac that they had brought. The Chinese weren't too fond of the chilled vodka, but they really liked the cognac put in their hot tea and sweetened with a little bit of sugar. Eventually the owner, the husband of the house, came home and said, sure, I can arrange a transport back to the train station. As you can imagine, this was well into the evening and all the vodka and cognac had been drunken. And there was obviously a little bit of frustration having not found the Etsy. On the way back to the train station, I guess the frustration took over and the cold seeped into their bones, and they looked at the moon and they said, you know what, we need to try and shoot this moon out of the sky. And each one of the friends took turns trying to shoot the moon out of the sky. And every time they missed, there was howls of laughter. They arrived back at the train station, as you can imagine, in quite a state. They took the train up to Mukden, which is where they used to pheasant hunt. They closed down a Japanese restaurant, and they even interrupted a reception at the hotel that they were staying when they all fell down the stairs. As true hunters, they woke up the next morning, made some sandwiches, and promised only to take one bottle of vodka out, and managed to get a good bag of pheasants. So what's the moral of the story? Never believe a hunter about a utopian paradise. Because if you do, you may end up in the middle of nowhere, try to shoot the moon down from the sky.